Your guest host, Carl Jackson, sitting in for Dennis Prager. Such an honor and privilege to be able to sit in for the wisest man on nationally syndicated radio. Conservative talk for sure, in my opinion. I'm so honored always to sit behind the microphone of Dennis Prager. I want to thank Dennis. I want to thank Sue for the opportunity. I want to thank his producer, Alan Estrin, Sean McConnell, that's in my ear. Gabe has my back right here at AM 950, 94.9 FM. The Answer, Orlando. So I appreciate all of you guys as well tuning in. The number to call into the program, 1-8-PRAGER-776. Again, that number, 1-8-PRAGER-776 or 1-877-243-7776. Again, 1-877-243-7776. Man, there is so much news that I'd like to cover with you today. I'm going to get into all of the misdoings, if you will, of the DOJ and the effort to go and to attack former President Donald Trump, the corruption of the FBI. I want to get into all of that because all of that is a threat to the United States of America and the rule of law. So we'll be talking about that. I want to get to some of the candidates that are entering in the race, talk about some of the candidates, but I want to talk about the most important question of all, and I probably won't get to that until the third hour, so I want you guys to be mulling over this question, and that is every single one of our nominees has to be able to answer this question if they receive your vote, and that is, how will you win the general election under the current voting system? How will you win the general election under the current voting system? And I want you to be thinking about that question as well, because it's very important. We can talk about how great candidates are all day long. We can talk about polls all day long. But if we have not paid attention to what happened in 2020 and 2022, all of that is for naught. Sounds good on talk radio, but I want to win. If we don't win, none of our ideas and none of our candidates matter. So we'll be getting into that in the third hour of the program. Once again, my name is Carl Jackson. You can find me online, all things social media, at The Carl Jackson Show. That is at The Carl Jackson Show. You can check out my podcast, The Carl Jackson Show, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. If you're on YouTube and Rumble, please subscribe to the podcast, rate and review it. Give us a 5 so that we can actually be heard. All things social media, Instagram, Twitter, Getter, True Social, Facebook, at The Carl Jackson Show. There's so much to get to. It's hard to know where to start, but I think I want to start here. I actually recorded a podcast, Gabe and I did, earlier this morning. And I want to touch on that before I get into some of the breaking news and some of the headlines of the day, some from the tip sheet, some from other places in which I will go. But I started thinking about, man, this is a random thought, but it came to me. And honestly, when you fill in for Dennis Prager, when you fill in for any of these hosts, quite frankly, it's like you feel like you have to perform at a certain level. Otherwise, you just suck. You know what I mean? Like, you have to bring your A game, and that's a good thing. And so, but when I consider coming on Dennis Prager's show, he's obviously a very thoughtful, intellectual guy. I will never match Dennis Prager's intellect. I won't even try. It would be a waste of time. But that isn't to say that I shouldn't bring my A game. And listen, I'm a Christian, and I have a biblical worldview or biblical slant on some of the topics and some of the issues of the day, and I like to implement that or inculcate that into some of the ideas and some of the topics of the day. And all of a sudden this morning I'm sitting and I'm having a hard time thinking of subjects. There's so much news. It's like, oh my God, obviously you got the DOJ corruption, the FBI corruption. He knew, do you guys know what I'm talking about? He knew, that is the sent cables from Afghanistan explicitly detail that Joe Biden knew all along that if we were to surrender in Afghanistan and leave, he knew exactly what would happen. They knew a framework, a time of when the Taliban would come and take over. So all of this stuff, all of this news out there, and I'm like, man, it's so big, it's so pressing, and I just started thinking, God, what matters? What matters? What matters? And a thought came to mind. How do you depopulate the earth? Huh? What? How do you depopulate the earth? And that's what I did the podcast about this morning. So please check out the podcast and subscribe to the podcast. Share it with your friends. Please, I don't say that just because I want to get numbers, although that's nice, let's be real. But I say that because I think it is a very important podcast. And as I started to break down, and this is original content, by the way, you're not going to hear this on any other show today. So you're only going to hear it on the Dennis Prager show. But I started thinking about, how do you depopulate the earth and why does it matter? And I was like, oh my God, oh my Lord. You see, if we understand how the left wants to depopulate the earth, because they are some evil, demonic, sick people that exist amongst the left, some real elites that don't believe in God, that don't value life, that really wouldn't mind depopulating the earth, because all of these other gods that they adore, that they embrace, simply cause them, in a sense, to do just that. That's what happens when you reject the God of the Bible. So I started thinking about them, and I outlined many, and I'm going to go through them. And what I'm going to do is the stories of the day. I'm going to implement those stories into these issues or these subtopics on how do you depopulate the earth? Because my contention is this: if you understand how the left wants to depopulate the earth, then you'll know how to defeat the left. And so that's what I want to do today on Dennis Prager's show. Number 1, abortion. Number 2, undermine traditional marriage. Number 3, climate change hysteria. Number 4, promote LGBTQ. Number 5, make porn easily accessible to men. Number 6, limit the food supply. Number 7, take away parental rights. Number 8, socialized medicine, single-payer health care, right? Number 9, turn ethnic groups against each other in pluralistic societies like the United States of America. Introduce AI into the mix so that societies choose convenience, all right? Convince the world to take experimental vaccines. And then, if all else fails, force ESG onto people. So let's go through these as we go through some of the topics of the day, because guys, I'm not just interested in candidates. I'm not interested in playing the Republican and Democrat team anymore. I want to defeat the left. I want to defeat the left. And I don't want to just defeat the left. I want to crush the left, because if we don't win in 2024, all of this is for naught. So you need to be motivated. You need to understand what you're fighting for. Number 1, we want candidates that are opposed to abortion. Why? Why is it abortion? Why is this one of the reasons in which why is this such a big deal, Carl? Can't we just run away from this issue? It's so scary. Republicans are going to lose. Let me tell you something. The Republican that says that we're going to lose on the issue of abortion, I want you to run away from that Republican, because that Republican is worthless in the long run. Let me explain. If you don't value life, you don't value anything else. Do you understand me? If you don't value life, you don't value anything else. If you don't understand how important a baby is, if you don't understand how to respect your elders and how precious life is, I don't want you as my candidate. Assisted suicide. Oh, my God, Carl, don't go there. Some people just don't want to live. We should acquiesce to that, because even some Republican states are doing it. We should acquiesce to that. Because why? Because we want to play God. Absolutely amazing to me. This is why I'm sick and tired of the Republican Democrat team. This is why I'm sick and tired of the red and blue. I respect the elderly. We should care for the elderly. I'm totally opposed to assisted suicide. That's not to say that if someone is on their dying breath or someone can't survive without being on a breathing machine, that's a different topic for the day. But if you don't have a candidate, that cares for life, if you don't have a candidate that cares for the elderly, if you don't have a candidate that cares for the sick and infirm, I would argue to you that you don't have a good candidate. And so you need to move on. How is a candidate that doesn't care for a baby? How is a candidate that doesn't have respect for the elderly? How the hell will he have respect for a voter?